Hey, Rube.
Hey, David.
How are we? David. You know the only people who call me David?
Your mom?
No. My mom calls me Dave. The only people who call me David are Ray Didinger and Jordan Mailata.
Interesting.
Yeah. People don't really call me David.
Nobody
call you Reuben?
Nobody really calls me Reuben. Yeah, nobody really calls me Reuben. Like when people, like if companies call me, they'll be like, is Reuben there? I'm like, no, this is Rube. But I just basically correct everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't correct it, David, but it throws me off a little bit. Like this in the beginning of a podcast where we should be talking about the Eagles,
Well,
and I've just made it about names.
Probably more interesting. In college, people call me Rubes.
Like more than one?
There was like a plural, or there was an S on the end of it.
That's weird.
Yeah. I don't know. At some point, it
That's
morphed.
like Spags.
Yeah, it can't be Spag.
Yeah.
Hey, Spag.
Yeah, it's a bad nickname.
That doesn't work. Anyway.
Yeah. Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. David Zangaro. We have a lot to talk about today because the Eagles are in a bit of a free fall here. They're 10-4, which that's good, but the way they got to 10-4, not so good. 3 straight losses, embarrassing losses, really, to 3 good teams in the NFC. 2 of them very good. The Seahawks, a kind of whatever team. We have a lot to talk about. We talked to Matt Patricia for the first time in a public setting on Thursday.
Have you talked to him in a private setting?
No, but I'm sure some people have in his life.
Yeah. I mean, he has spoken before, but not to us.
Not to us. So it was good to get some eyes on him and listen to what he had to say, which, to be frank, there wasn't a lot. But
so you've gotten Reuben and Frank in a conversation.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. That wasn't bad.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot there, but I thought there was some interesting stuff, and we'll break that down a little bit. Nick Sirianni had an interesting press conference, a virtual press conference on Wednesday. So
I lashed out at you.
Yeah, I got a little bit of it, which is fine. So we'll talk about that. A bunch of stuff to get to. But first, before we really start the pod, I wanted to thank everyone because a few weeks ago we asked everyone to please subscribe on the YouTube channel, the NBC Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. And I know it makes our bosses here very happy because in the mail, we got this. And if you're watching on YouTube, you see it. It's a little plaque. And we passed 100,000 subscribers. So that's really cool. We appreciate that. That's you guys doing it. So
do we get 2 of those?
This isn't even ours. This is just for the company.
Really?
Yeah. It's going to live right here.
Why don't we should get one.
Do you want one?
Yeah.
Just take it. I don't know.
I think I will.
Okay. I think it should be like the Stanley Cup. We each get it for a day.
So we skid around the podcast studio holding it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
But thanks everyone for getting us there.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's a cool milestone, and we appreciate all the love and support throughout the season. Yeah, let's start with Matt Patricia. What'd you make of his comments?
Well, let's start out
with
his demeanor. So it started a little late. If you were streaming it at home, you noticed that. We finally got in the auditorium, 15 minutes late? And Matt was in front of the table where he does the interview, and he walked around the room shaking everyone's hand, introducing himself.
Yeah.
Which you don't see. You see that occasionally. Rashad Penny did that.
Okay.
It's
a nice human thing.
Yeah. I was covering a high school game between Burlington Township and Salem. It was a state Group 2. It was a South Jersey Group 2 final. And Salem had a kid named A.B. Brown. You might remember that name. He played for the Jets he went to West Virginia. He was an All-American, played for the Jets for 5 or 6 years. And he rushed for 271 yards in that game. Now, this is in the heyday of newspapers. So there were probably 12 or 14 newspapers covering the game. And we're all surrounding him after the game, and he goes around. This is a high school kid, 18 years old. He goes around and shakes everyone's hand, introduces himself, asks, what newspaper they're with. There weren't websites yet; they had not been invented. But that always stuck with me. I thought that was a really cool thing for a high school kid to do, for anybody to do. It's a very and look, it helps. I mean, that's connecting. That stuff helps. But it was nice to see Matt Patricia do it. It's the first time I ever talked to him.
Yeah, the Eagles have really kind of kept him hidden for most of his time here. Even when they hired him, it was a secret.
Yeah, remember at the presser, I was like, Nick, did you hire Matt Patricia? And he looks at Bob Lang. He's like, we'll have something on that later. And then they erased his picture from the website.
The whole thing was like clouded or shrouded in secrecy.
Clouded, shrouded, doubted.
All these things.
Yeah, but finally they admitted to it. They're kind of slow with these coaching changes. They don't like to admit things. But he was very gracious. He was very chatty. He was very different than I expected.
Yeah, you kind of get this vision
notions.
of a gruff New Englander. We know about the stuff with Slay, which has probably tainted our image of him. And really his whole tenure in Detroit has.
And just, I think anybody who's a disciple of Belichick, you kind of make certain assumptions about them, that they're going to be like Belichick. But he was very friendly and
he's also lost a ton of weight, by the way.
Yeah.
Like you see the images of him when he was in New England like years ago. Bigger dude. He looks good now.
Yeah, he does. He talked a lot. His answers were very long.
A little bit of word salad.
Very detailed. But there wasn't a lot of content there.
Yeah, he kept talking about the collaborative process. And I get it. He's in a tricky situation.
He is.
He doesn't want to kind of crap on the defense he's taking over. But I made sure to censor myself a little bit there. But but the thing is they made this change for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, like if he wasn't going to bring something different to the table, they wouldn't have done it. So I wish we could have been able to press him a little bit more on that, but I don't think he would have given in to that.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I think you're right. Now, the one thing he allowed was, I think somebody asked, well, why did Nick, in your eyes, why did Nick make the change? He said, well, he and I don't remember the words, and I'd be paraphrasing, but it was something like, he wants to make sure we have the best possible defense, moving forward for the rest of the season. It was like the only time he acknowledged that anything could possibly even change. He was asked a lot of different ways what you're going to change, how much can you change this late in the season, and he said, hey, it's a collaborative defense. He said several times how, and I believe him, that Sean Desai was professional and gracious helping him, and he said they've had a great relationship since he got here. I believe all that. Sean Desai's a class act.
I mean, I can't believe he did that press conference last week without hinting.
Yeah, we should talk about that because he knew at that point that there was a change, and they ran him out there to face us as defensive coordinator.
It's a little ridiculous for an organization to do.
I agree.
In the name of competitive advantage, like, is it worth it? Is that really worth it?
Yeah, basically, Nick is, that's one of his big phrases. You've heard it a million times. He talks. He won't tell you. Like, he won't tell you if Avante Maddox is practicing. Like, so who the defensive coordinator is, competitive advantage. He thinks every little thing. So they ran Sean Desai out there for the regular weekly press conference to face us after demoting him.
Yeah. A little bit of a Looney Tune way to go about business.
It's awful. And Sean handled it, beautifully and as well, better than I would have. I would have been up there like, well, why don't you ask the real defensive coordinator? Why asking me that? Go ask Matt over there. But
sometimes I think the juice really isn't worth the squeeze in terms of all this competitive advantage crap. Sometimes it's like...
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes, like, if it's a little... Like, something like this...
You can't treat a human being like that.
It's a tricky thing. I don't think it's worth it. I don't know if there's that much to gain from it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything to gain from it, but, it's going to come out. I think it helped them. Well, I mean, maybe they would have scored more than 20 points. I don't know. But Sean handled it really well. We'll never talk to Sean Desai again.
Probably not.
Probably never talk to him again until he goes to another team and does a press conference next summer as linebackers coach or whatever he is. But I do believe that Matt Patricia genuinely, I don't think he was lying when he talked about how supportive Sean Desai was during the week or leading up to the game and during the game from upstairs. And just since he got here, he said, my family's not here. And Sean kind of took me under his wing and welcomed me. And
why is Sean Desai still here?
It's a great question.
I've been thinking about this one a lot. And I think
I have a theory.
Okay, I do too.
Go ahead.
Oh, all right.
Well, you go first.
My theory...
It's probably the same.
Is that they could use the bridge. because a lot of they're not going to be able to change this entire defense in a week, right? So you're still going to be left with a lot of the scheme that the side had, and they're going to have to change some of the mechanisms on it based on what Patricia wants. But having the guy who implemented what they've done for the first 14 games of the season, there probably is a little bit of benefit to that if that guy is willing to help.
My theory is because it would look more chaotic if you fired him, if you completely got him out of the building.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that because we've seen teams do that. That's more normal than what the Eagles are doing.
I agree. That's what Andy did with Juan. But Andy had built up a lot of, as much equity as Nick, I guess. They each went to a Super Bowl and lost it.
A little more.
A little more from all the years. And plus, Juan was just such a wacky situation anyway with Washburn, who's here. His son is here. I think
also another Matt Patricia's another guy who was on offense last year, who's now the DC.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of parallels. But all we need is Todd Bowles to come in, and replace Desai or something. But I guess he's busy. But anyway, I just think this organization is really, really, they really want to avoid the appearance of chaos. And
how are they doing with that?
I think it might look even worse if he was just totally. I could be wrong. I just think that's how they think. They don't want it to look like. I missed that. They don't want it to look chaotic. It does. Maybe they think it would look more chaotic if they ran him out of the building.
Yeah, sometimes I disagree with that. I don't think it would. I think it would make more sense, but I think there might be some value to it.
I agree. I'm just saying that I'm just trying to understand their thought process.
Sure. Look, Matt Patricia does have more experience than Sean Desai. Now, you can look at that experience and say, well, he wasn't very good before, but it is experience. Guys can get better. He talked a little bit about learning from being in this position before. I don't know what to make of him. I don't know how many tangible differences we'll see between now and the end of the season. We did see some small differences in that game. The result ended up being the same, but there were some small differences in terms of usage, in terms of some coverages. There were little things that were different. Like we saw a deeper bench, certainly. Patrick Johnson thinks Matt Patricia is the best defensive coordinator.
How many snaps did he end up playing?
8, I think.
I wonder.
8 more than he played all year.
Yeah. Would he bench James Bradbury?
Would he?
Yeah.
I don't think that he would, and I don't think that would be his decision.
No?
No. I think benching a starting player at a non-rotational position. Now, would they start rotating there maybe a little bit?
I mean, if he went to Nick and said, look, I think even before Slay comes back, I think we'd be better off just running Ringo and Ricks out there.
I think that would still be the head coach's decision.
Yeah, maybe he would have final say. I wonder how Nick would respond if Matt was like, look, these guys can run. They're getting better. They're going to make mistakes, but Bradbury just can't run anymore. I don't know. We're speculating, but we'll see. I mean, I think we'll have a sense Sunday or Monday afternoon, see if anything more changes. Because now he's got the full week. He might have had, we don't know exactly how much of the week he had. We don't know when the decision was made. Nick wouldn't say.
Nick conveniently forgot when he decided to make a switch at defensive coordinator.
Hey, he forgot when Shane took play calling duties.
Yeah.
It was sometime, early in the season. I think we eventually figured it out, but kind of when they started moving the ball. It was basically when it happened. Probably the Detroit game. But anyway, we'll see if anything changes. We'll see if anything gets better. I really believe the timing of this was, look, we got the toughest opponents out of the way. We'll start Matt out with the Seahawks. They'll shut him down. Then we got the Giants. They'll shut him down. Cards, Giants. He'll have a month of that. Be on a roll going to the playoffs, and they still might be, but it's not going to be a 4-game roll.
Yeah, and even if they get on a roll here, might be a little bit of fool's gold.
Sure. Yeah.
The other thing Patricia talked about that we certainly took notice of was about Darius Slay.
Slay.
What'd you make of that? How sincere do you think that was? And to paraphrase, he basically said, like, we have a good relationship now. He said they actually just hugged before Patricia's press conference started. He seemed to really appreciate the fact that he got a chance to mend this relationship because it was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, Slay was not quiet about his dislike for that man.
Yeah.
To the point where when the Eagles brought in Matt Patricia, we said, why are they willing to make their best player mad?
And he basically kind of said what Slay told us back in the spring, or when I don't remember if we talked to Slay. It probably wasn't until training. I just don't remember. It doesn't matter. But he said, we had some long talks, and we came to an understanding. And Patricia was really, he seemed genuine to me. He said, you get older, you learn, you confront your mistakes, and you try to understand people better and treat people better. And, he seemed pretty genuine about it. And if true, and I'm sure they wouldn't, well, no, I'm not going to say that, but it seemed genuine. And Slay seemed genuine talking about it back in training camp about, look, we talked about it, and I'm cool with it, and I'm fine with it. So, yeah, if that's the case, and I just don't think he would say that if it wasn't true. He doesn't seem, maybe he's a very good liar. We don't know him that well, but it seemed genuine.
It did, and I also think there are levels to it also. They don't have to be best friends, They just have to have a good working relationship where it's not a problem. Like, they don't have to go bowling together, right? But, like...
It would help.
Maybe. Nick is big on connecting, especially with bowling. But as long as they have a good working relationship, that's all that really matters. This is not something that Patricia was asked. It's something that I plan on asking him at some point. But let me ask you, do you think there's a path here for him to do a good enough job to be the permanent defensive coordinator?
I think it's in the mix. Certainly got a good month to try out. It would make things simpler, certainly. I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think if it hadn't been for that 92-yard drive, he would have been on his way.
Yeah.
But that was terrible.
And he was honest about that drive, too.
He was.
Like a lot of that back. He thought they had good calls, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yep.
2 3rd and 10s on that drive.
And a 2nd and 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to look up the last time they gave up 2 3rd and 10s on the same fourth quarter drive. Yeah, you have to go all the way back to the Jets game. Oddly enough, a lot of similarities between those two games.
Yeah.
A lot of similarities. But I don't think it's a slam dunk, but I think Nick would like it if he was able to kind of solidify the defense over this last month, and more importantly, in the playoffs. That's really going to be. They're a playoff team, as odd as it sounds. Nothing they do can undo that.
They're trying though.
They sure are, but the math. I keep looking at they're in. I think if he coaches well, if they play well on defense in the postseason, I would think he'd probably be the guy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. You want to go to a fourth coordinator in 3 years.
Wouldn't be ideal.
Yeah. Although Gannon might be available.
I don't think so. I think he'll last the year.
Yeah, I would think so. Especially if he wins. Oh, never mind.
Nick Sirianni on Wednesday had his virtual press conference. It got pushed back a day because there was a bunch of travel. I appreciate that because I wouldn't be able to be on it to get yelled at if it was on Tuesday.
You can stream on the like a few years ago you couldn't do streaming like Zoom calls on a plane, but you can do them now.
Yeah, but
it's not fun.
I would listen. I wouldn't ask a question.
That would be unusual.
From like seat 15C, that'd be tough. I have asked Zoom questions from an airport.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I I did a podcast from a parking lot in a diner in Buckingham Township a couple days ago with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do what you have to do. But anyway, he was in a weird mood.
Testy Nick.
Yeah, and we haven't seen that a lot, but we haven't seen him lose 3 straight.
So the thing that set him off most, questions about accountability. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it was interesting.
It's a big part of his whole thing. His accountability, we know the lengths they go to. They put numbers and names on the board. They point out mistakes and team settings.
I think what's frustrating for him is the same things that are tenets of his first 2.5 years are not working. And I think it's frustrating for him, and I don't think he knows how to react, and he hasn't been in this position before. And look, there's a reason. I mean, the front runners, it's easy to be engaging and, funny and all that stuff and interesting when you keep winning, which they've done a lot of. Jalen lost as many games in 16 days as he lost in the previous 733 days.
It's wild.
Who's the idiot that figured that out? But I think he
Whenever you do stats like that, do you double check when the leap year is?
No, well, I don't need to because I just type into Google how many days from November 21st, 2021 to yesterday.
I got you.
And it gives you a number. It's amazing. So it's factored into that.
Okay.
You had me for a second. I was like, oh, shoot, was there a leap year in there? But anyway, I just think he doesn't really know how to handle this, and it's coming across.
Yeah, I look, he's under a lot of pressure. He gets in like defensive mode though, and I don't want it to come off I don't think any of reporters care personally about it, but that's the image he's putting forth to the fan base, and. Yeah. It seems like sometimes he doesn't have answers, and it seems like he's losing control a little bit. And that might not be fair, it might not be true, but...
That's the impression he's giving.
Yeah, and I think that's tricky.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't care. But...
Yeah, I had a bunch of people texting me because he gave me some grief. I've doing this. I've been yelled at by plenty of coaches. Nick's not the first or last coach that's going to be annoyed with me. But... It's noticeable that he's an emotional guy. He wears it on his sleeve a little bit. Yeah. But he's feeling a little bit of pressure right now.
Yeah, and I don't think it's particularly a good look for the team either. I think one of the things about when they were 2-5 was he was he came across as being in control and confident. There was none of what we're seeing now. And obviously since then he's become a Super Bowl coach and all that stuff, but I don't think it's good when the team sees a coach up there who's a little out of control that way. I don't think it's a huge deal, but it's not good. And
it matters more the way he portrays himself in front of the team.
Yeah.
But they see this stuff.
Yeah. It's not a good look. And I still think he's a really good coach. I think, we'll see how these next few weeks go, but you have to. Everybody can deal with winning. You gotta really learn how to deal with losing.
Mm-hmm. What else from that press conference stood out?
From Nick's?
Yeah. So let me talk about the last interception. He gave a really weird answer.
Yeah.
Just a really weird answer about he led with the potential for a DPI.
Yes, he did.
Which is you can't play for a DPI. Now it can factor into your thought process, but. To be asked about that play and to lead was saying, well, we could get a DPI.
You're basically saying our best play in my offense is trying to get a pass interference.
Yeah, it's that. I don't think that's true. I think he's trying to cover a little bit there for either the play caller or the quarterback. It better not be true. They better not decide to draw up the DPI play. And
worked with Torrey Smith.
Torrey Smith was great.
If you had Torrey Smith, then you can run that all the time, and he'll get it. He got more DPIs. That was one of my favorite stories I wrote the year he was here. But yeah, that was an odd answer. But I don't know who he was covering. He was covering for one of the two. So I don't know who it was.
Yeah, well, on that play, maybe both, because AJ since has battled with a fan online
Oh, yeah.
to say that he was the primary on that play, which that's probably not good. Like, you want to give yourself a chance to – you have a great field goal kicker. Like, it's not all or nothing. You had a chance to move the football down the field. So maybe he shouldn't be the primary read on that play. But also, Jalen has to know situationally on both of the interceptions what he's doing. Like
It's been a problem this year.
Yeah, you love aggressiveness, but in those two situations, is that really the best play?
I mean, he had the interception. What game was it? The first Washington game?
Which interception?
The one in the back of the end zone that there was no reason to throw. Don't remember, but his court awareness hasn't been great this year. I meant to ask Jake Elliott. I didn't see him in the locker room. I wanted to ask him what his range would have been in those conditions. 55. I don't know. You were there. You know how bad it was.
It wasn't. It started to pick up a little bit, but it wasn't awful.
So it might have been 57. So, you basically need 15, 17 yards.
Yeah, you got a shot at it.
Yeah, 2 timeouts. Yeah, I just don't get that. Yeah, but, I mean, really, both of those interceptions didn't have to be thrown and probably shouldn't have been thrown, really.
Yeah, so the question I did ask Nick that he eventually answered was about, they made a change on, obviously both sides of the football are struggling. Make a change on one side of the ball. What are the differences in these struggles that you make?
Should we set up what he...
No, I don't want to get in.
Okay.
We don't. He was annoyed about a previous question, and then I popped up on his screen with my doofy face and started asking him. And I was prefacing by saying, basically, you guys have sucked on both sides of the ball.
I know that, Dave.
Yeah.
I know that we've been bad on both sides of the ball. I like how you're like, I don't want to get into it, and then you just explain the whole scenario.
Yeah. Well, I figure if people haven't heard it, we've talked about it enough. But then I was prefacing it because they've struggled on both sides, but they made a change on one side and not the other. So what are the differences in these struggles to lead to one but not the other?
Yeah.
I think it's a fair question.
Good question.
So he basically said, well, the offense hasn't been bad all year. I'm paraphrasing.
That's what he said.
And
he compared this year's numbers with last year's.
In certain categories.
In certain hand-picked categories. And, yeah, but that includes early in the season when they were scoring a lot more points.
Sure. It's been really bad recently. But he did bring up something which...
But the defense has, too. I mean, the defense, it was a top 10 defense
fair.
6 weeks ago.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I do agree with is that he said he deserves more criticism for the offense.
Yeah. It was good to hear him say that.
Yeah, it's totally true. That's not to say Brian Johnson does not deserve criticism. I think he does. I think at times he has not been a great play caller. I think he's growing into the job. There are plenty of individual plays you can point out and go, what the heck's he doing? But a lot of the criticism on offense hasn't been about just specific plays. It's been about structure and scheme and the lack of motion or lack of bunch formations, like different things. And all that is Nick.
Yeah. Just a lack of inventiveness on offense.
The predictability of this offense, relying too much on your guys to make it right, which sometimes it works.
I mean, I think the reality is some of it's on Jalen, some of it's on Nick, some of it's on Brian Johnson. And there's no reason to have one guy to blame. Blame them all.
Now, if you're trying to figure out which guy is most likely to get the axe for it, it's probably Brian Johnson.
Yeah, well,
just because
assistant coaches don't have salary caps.
Yeah, and
Jalen's got a proven track record, and so does Nick. Brian Johnson doesn't.
Yeah, so I get, and you're trying to figure, well, what's different? These other two guys were here last year. This guy wasn't, and I think that's a little too simple to figure out the causation of the struggles because. Yes, like those other two guys were here last year, but it doesn't mean they're doing the same things at the same rate they were doing last year. Certainly, Jalen has turned the football over more. He hasn't had the same pocket awareness. He's making more mistakes. And Nick, to say that you're doing the same things offensively that you were doing last year, in his mind, he's saying that as a positive thing. I don't know if it is because defenses can catch up and they get more tape on you and they figure out ways to stop you. You have to keep pushing it. You have to keep figuring out ways to get better. If you're staying the same, you're getting worse.
Yeah. And that's what we're seeing.
I agree. Anything else from Nick?
No.
No?
No, well, I mean, I asked him about Quez. And, I mean, he repeated that we have a lot of, I mean, the Quez thing just boggles my mind.
I had somehow become the Quez defender on this podcast, but
Are you banning that role?
you can't play him.
Yeah, you can't play him. He's played. I actually looked it up. Over the last 2 years, he's played. There's 68 receivers have played 1,000 or more snaps, and he's got the fewest yards of any of them. Now it's a little deceiving because he's got like 1,022 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, he's played a ton. He's played. What did he play? 36 snaps the other night.
He's played a ton since he got back from the injury.
He hasn't made a play.
This is a guy who we thought, are they even going to activate him? Is it even worth bringing him back? When he was
I
on
thought they were going to cut him.
They don't have a third receiver. Their best shot right now is OZ, and he played 7 snaps.
Yeah, I just don't get it. And Nick keeps saying, well, his speed opens up things for. He's contributing to losses. Like, he's not using his speed. I mean, there's no way he's helping this team. I don't get it. It makes no sense. I'd rather see Greg Ward out there. I'd rather see Devin Allen out there. I'd see Joseph Nagata out there.
Yeah, if it's just about pure speed, throw Devin Allen out there.
Yeah.
Then don't throw him the football.
I'll tell you what, Devin Allen's more physical than Quez is.
I don't know that.
Oh, we saw him as a gunner.
Sure.
He's physical. I mean, he doesn't shy away from contact like Quez does.
Yeah, and I mean, how many? You've chronicled this like 5 times in a row. They've thrown a deep ball to Quez, and it's resulted in a disaster.
5 times in a row. Yeah, the fumble against Washington, the 2 interceptions in the Dallas game out there, Gardner, and then obviously the Super Bowl, and this one. I don't know how you keep doing it. And you know, going into last year, I was really high on Quez. I mean, I think we did our contest. I had him with like 870 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had almost 700, he had 650 the year before. I was like, wow, he's gonna get more balls. Big play guy.
And in theory, I think he made sense as the 3.
Yeah,
because like he's the least the skill. He's not the type of player, but the skill set is of a player who could contribute with limited targets.
they gave up on Rager faster than they gave up on Quez.
Yeah, Quez has also done more,
Yeah, he's a 6.
which isn't a good thing.
No, that is bad.
Yeah,
I mean, he was a 6th-round pick. So, yeah. Maybe he'll be – I did ask Nick. I followed up, and I said, you know, are you going to keep running him out there or whatever? And he said, well, we'll see. Maybe they'll be inactive. Maybe they'll – I mean, there's 3 receivers on the practice squad. I don't know.
well, they have 6 on the 53 now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Covey, I don't really count Covey. Although I'd rather see him out there. We know he's tough. We saw him catch the ball pretty well in camp. But he's not a speed guy. But anyway, I just – and they need more than just A.J., Devontae, and Dallas in the passing game.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's saying they shouldn't funnel it through those 3 guys.
Right.
And I didn't even really have a huge problem with the one game where no one else got a target. I think that's rare.
The Dallas game. Well, it never happened before.
Yeah, it's obviously it's kind of a fluky thing. But in a one-game span, like, all right, whatever, that happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that was the reason they lost. But over the course of a season, if you don't have another threat in the pass game, it shows.
Yeah.
Needs someone who can help you, but also who Jalen trusts.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, he seems to trust Quez more than he should.
Yeah.
And he doesn't trust the other guys.
It's true. Well, if it's hard to imagine them shutting him down, but I think it makes sense at this point. He's not gonna make a play. His confidence must be completely shot.
I don't know. It's tough to know.
Yeah. I mean, it was after the Super Bowl. We'll see.
I really appreciated him after the Super Bowl owning up to it, and it seemed like he had the right mindset.
I'd rather he didn't have the right mindset and made a catch. But no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, something happened, and then he. But my point was that, like, after the Super Bowl, I thought, okay, here's a guy who realizes he wasn't good enough, who has some talent. I don't think anyone disagrees that he has some talent. but it hasn't come together. He got hurt. It's been a disaster.
Yeah.
Anything else from Nick? We move on.
No.
Jalen Hurts was asked to clarify his comments from after the game about commitment, and he mentioned basically that in so many words, he questioned the team's commitment. Right? I'm not speaking out of turn there.
We need more of a commitment.
Yeah. He was asked to clarify that on Thursday, and he somehow got it around to being that he was challenging himself, which sounds wacky, but I kind of think there is some truth in that because he included himself in the we as a team. I don't think he was just calling out his teammates. I think he was doing that, but I think he was calling out himself too.
Yeah, he did. He was careful to make sure he included himself. So that's not, revisionist history. He really did. Mm-hmm. But it was still an odd exchange.
Yeah, and I asked him as the leader on the team, how do you pick your spots? How do you push the right buttons? And he talked about, you can't ask anyone else to do something you wouldn't do yourself, which I think is an important thing. Like he's walking the walk, he's talking the talk. He's being very accountable in a public setting, which if he's being that accountable publicly, I have to assume he's being that accountable behind closed doors. And I think that's a really important part of the leadership structure of this team.
There's no doubt. Yeah. And that's something that was missing from maybe an earlier quarterback here.
Yeah, let's say his name. We have to for this topic. There have been a lot of comparisons made to Carson Wentz, right? There have been.
Sure.
We've heard them.
Regressing just like Carson.
Yes, and look, I don't think all of those similarities are absent. We're talking about a player who was at one point an MVP caliber quarterback who has not played to that level. There are some elements of hero ball associated. I've also seen people mention the offensive coordinator switch. He loses the offensive coordinator from the Super Bowl, and they promote the quarterback's coach with whom the quarterback has a very tight relationship. I get all that. The difference, or one of the differences to me, is the accountability issue. With Jalen, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's the opposite. He's always been accountable. I think in that comparison, Jalen's body of work is also, Carson completed one pass in his career in the postseason. It was a 3-yarder to Boston Scott. Jalen had a historic Super Bowl. So, the body of work is
And Jalen's been very good this year.
Yeah, until the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I don't buy it. But, yeah, I don't buy it. I still expect him to come out Sunday against the Giants or Monday against the Giants and play really well.
What do you make of his play?
It's not good. I don't think he was awful in the 49ers and Cowboys games, but he wasn't good, and they needed him to be special in those two games. You're playing two of the best teams in the league. You got to raise your level.
Like he did in the Super Bowl.
Like he did in the Super Bowl.
They didn't win that game, but he played at an exceedingly high level.
Yeah. It's weird. His pocket awareness has not been the same as last year. Mm-hmm. That's been kind of a common thread. I think that's one of the reasons he's fumbled so much. He's just not sensing the pressure. He's not feeling traffic around him. Some of the interceptions, the common theme with the interceptions is a lot of them been really unnecessary deep balls. Not all of them, but a bunch of them just been.
And some you live with because you like the aggressiveness.
Yeah. Everyone's going to have a few, but it's been weird watching him because he was an MVP favorite 3 weeks, before going into the Niners game. He was ahead of Brock Purdy, Prescott.
We were on this podcast, and I said, if he plays out the season, he's the MVP.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's happening with him. I
Clearly didn't have the stamina in that last game.
Yeah, and I that's to me that's separate. I thought Mariota should have been in there in the third quarter. I thought it was pretty clear he didn't have any strength.
By the way, Jalen did say on Thursday he's feeling better. He looked better, certainly.
Yeah.
Than the last
Well,
time
he looked. There were some close-ups of his face, man. He looked drawn and pale and just exhausted in that second half Monday night in Seattle. But as far as the other two games, he just hasn't played well. And I think part of it, like, he had played well so many games in a row at a really high level. It's just kind of shocking to see him making the mistakes that he's making and to do it 3 weeks in a row. I don't think he's getting a lot of help. I mean, from the play caller, from the head coach, on occasion from his teammates with drops.
and fumbles.
Certainly Devontae's had a few drops. AJ's had shared drops. Goddard too. Goddard's had some drops. Those are the only guys he throws to. I think the fact that there's not a third receiver he can count on or a third weapon. Some games it's Gainwell, some games it's OZ, some games it's Swift, some games it's Quez, Julio.
All right, we don't have to mention all the players
sorry.
on the team.
Stoll, Johnny King. So I don't think he's got a ton of help, but he's just not playing well.
Yeah, and he's right. Like after the game, he said he has to be better, and he does. I think there's a disconnect sometimes where it's like no one's saying he's not going to be great again, but he hasn't been great recently, and they need him to be. And that's the reason he got a $50 million contract.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep expecting to see it, and the Giants have a decent defense, but it's a game that I think he's going to have an opportunity to. He should be healthy, unless there's something we don't know about. I mean, maybe the knees still bother him more than he lets on.
It doesn't look like. I mean, the first play of the last game was QB run.
Yeah, even that 20-yard run, he looked fast on that.
Yeah, to me, when we look at this team high above, I understand the defense has been bad. To me, the offense has been a bigger problem.
Yeah, you wrote a good piece on that. I mean, because expectations of the offense were way higher than the defense.
It's a team that almost brought back the entire offense from last year. They have the quarterback in place. They have the best offensive line in football. They have two top-tier receivers. They have a tight end who's a top 5 tight end. How in the world have they not scored 20 points in the last 3 games?
And Swift's a push with
They're
Miles.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they scored, 13, 6, and 19? I don't know, whatever it is. 17, 6, and 19.
Yeah. I just don't get it.
I don't get it either.
And if this team is going to do anything, it's going to have to be on the back of the offense.
Yeah, and I mean there was a stretch there where they were playing great. They were unstoppable on offense. And then it just kind of went away.
Yeah, it's very peculiar to me.
Yeah. And some games they'll run the ball, some games they throw the ball well, some games turnovers are the one constant. This team just turns the ball over way too much. But the Niners game didn't have any turnovers.
Yeah, I mean Nick pointed out the 2 areas where they need to be better, and he's right. It's turnovers and it's lack of explosive. They've been down in both.
But it's also, I think, one thing they were really good at in the past is running the ball late to run the clock, and they haven't been good at that.
Yeah, part of me was thinking, and I think we talked about this a little bit off camera, that when the offense isn't working, they've always kind of had this push button in case of emergency, lean on the run game. You have a great offensive line, just run behind those guys. But now you have Cam Jurgens, who's banged up. He was back at practice, but Landon Dickerson's out. We'll get to that in a little bit. That's a little scary because I always thought that can be the fix. It's not going to solve all the problems because you still need to be an elite passing offense.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's nothing wrong with just leaning on those guys up front and kind of making it real simple.
And they had a couple of 200-yard rushing games back-to-back earlier this year. Swift had a couple of huge games. Yeah, we thought Swift was going to have a 2,000-yard season at that point. It's weird, and Barry and I always argue about this, if one thing Brian Johnson, it's clear about Brian Johnson, if the running game's not working early, he won't go back to it. Mm-hmm. If Swift is 5 for 8, that's it. You're just not going to see him again. And I kind of get it's not working. Let's do something else. I think even Kelsey said, he was asked after the
49ers.
The 49ers game, why don't you run the ball more? He's like, it wasn't working. It was just wasn't. We just weren't running well, and they really haven't run. They had a lot of yards Monday night, but 80 of them were Jalen. And at the end of the game, when they needed to do it, they couldn't do it, and that's been a big difference. They used to always be able to. They would wear teams down with that O-line.
Situational football, 2
minute,
minute, 4 minute.
Run the clock out. There's just not a good 2-minute offense anymore, 4-minute offense anymore, and that's alarming.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's take a break. And then
Did you take a break yet?
Oh, no, we didn't take a break yet. Yeah, then on the other side, we'll wrap up with some injury stuff and a look ahead at the Giants.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. All right, Rube, so the big injury news this week, Landon Dickerson had thumb surgery. He's going to miss at least this Giants game, maybe more, not getting put on IR, so the team expects him back. But that's a big loss for a guy who's been pretty durable.
Yeah, it is
surprisingly
a big loss.
Durable.
Yeah, considering his reputation coming in or his history coming in. Yeah, it's a big loss. This team's been low-key banged up.
Here and there.
Here and there, but it's been steady. It's been like nothing super serious out for the year. A couple, Vontae's missed a lot of time in Nakobe, but there's always been a couple guys missing. And it's not an excuse. It's just they've been navigating through some stuff.
We talked about the injury luck regression from last year. We're going to notice it because last year was a really unique season from that regard.
Yeah.
But Cam Jurgens was back at practice on Thursday. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
What do you think they would do if Cam is back and no Landon? Who plays left guard?
Brett Toth.
I wouldn't bet on that.
If Cam's at right guard, we haven't seen Driscoll play left guard.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen Tyler Steen play left guard.
Yeah, right guard was where all the rotation was in camp.
Yeah,
like the guys who, the left guards from camp aren't here anymore.
Driscoll has played left guard.
I don't think Driscoll's in the mix. I think Driscoll's the backup right tackle.
I do too. I think it would be Steen.
I think it'd be Sua.
Could be Sua. He's played some left guard.
It would be Sua or Steen.
Yeah,
but I think it'd be Sua.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And with so the difference to me would be Cam Jurgens' status, because if Cam was out, then you'd probably keep Sua at right guard, or you'd have Sua out there. But this week at practice, if Cam is doing team drills, which we don't know yet, but if he's doing team drills, someone's got to line up at left guard, and that guy's probably getting ready for the game.
Right.
Which my guess would be Sua.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see on Friday how they line up.
Right.
But that'd be my guess, is that we'll have Mailata, Sua, Kelsey, Cam, and Lane.
Could be. Yeah.
Okay.
Sua's all right. I kind of like to see Steen out there.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I didn't think he had a great game against the Cowboys before the bye week.
Yeah.
And I guess I just trust Sua more.
Yeah, probably.
But we're also talking about Steen potentially being a starter next year. So
yeah.
It wouldn't be bad to see him.
Yeah.
Now, other injury stuff, no Zach Cunningham at practice again. Something to keep an eye on.
They miss him.
Shaq Leonard had a rough game.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they're going to get out of him.
Yeah, and he played more than I'm sure they wanted him to. They just have no options.
Yeah. And Nicholas Morrow, by the way, did not practice on Thursday.
What's he got?
Don't know that.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, the injury report's not
out. Losing Christian Ellis really, really hurt him. It was a misjudgment. It was a costly misjudgment.
It was. And they just don't have linebackers. If today at practice their linebackers would have been Shaq Leonard and Ben Mansumarin. And the only other guy is on the practice squad.
Who's that?
Brandon Smith.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. he might be their best linebacker.
And Patrick Johnson can play off ball here and there.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
It's not. I wonder, I mean, they had so many options when they cut Christian Ellis. I mean,
Alberto
would have
the
made
easiest
them,
one.
Yeah. Quez, that wasn't going to happen. But, yeah, that's. I mean, they were so thin at that position, and he was under contract for next year. That was the weird part about it.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you want him here in camp next year when presumably, I mean, maybe Zach Cunningham will be back, although these injuries certainly are, maybe there's a good chance Morrow and Cunningham, neither one will be here.
Yeah.
Fair chance.
Decent chance, yeah.
So, like, N'Kobe's now is he your only linebacker under contract for next year?
Well,
off-ball linebacker?
Van Sumer.
And Van Sumer, but he's never played a defensive snap still. Yeah, it's not ideal.
Good news on the injury front. Avonte Maddox was back at practice
That was good to see.
on Thursday. They could really use him. And I don't know if it'll be this week, but he's back at practice because they think he can help in the playoffs.
Yeah, and there was a point where, I mean, when this first happened, he could miss the whole year. And we'll see what happens. I mean, he's still got to do it. Practice was after the locker room, so we didn't have a chance to talk to him after practice, but we will tomorrow, Friday. Can't hurt.
They've missed him.
Big time.
And, I mean, think about Mario Goodrich and Eli Ricks and Sidney Brown and Bradley Roby. It's been a revolving door at nickel. And no one ever questions that if Avonte is good, can he stay healthy? He hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah.
When he's out there, he's been good, and it's almost like a little boost for the team to get him back if they get him going into the playoffs.
Yeah, even if he's only rotating, it's a positive having him out there. He's a good player, but again, his history's been getting hurt, and
But for a secondary that just doesn't have juice,
yeah,
he at least brings that.
Yeah,
he'll fly around, he'll make some plays,
and I think Keely Ringo did that, and Sidney did that to a point. A couple of young guys. Oh, Sidney certainly brings juice. He just obviously had some bad missed tackles.
Yeah.
I talked to Keely Ringo today. Had a good talk with him.
I liked the way he played in that game.
He said he was interesting. He said, I had some opportunities early in training camp and early in the year with the ones. He said I just didn't take advantage of them. I just wasn't ready. I just wasn't good enough. Said it really pushed him to, if I get another opportunity, I'm going to be ready and I'm going to take advantage of it. And he has.
Yeah, he's looked good to the point where we've talked about, like, even when Slay's back, we'll see what happens over the next few games. But
yeah, I mean, we haven't mentioned Bradbury, but I'd bench him.
We did mention him.
We did today?
Yeah. You asked if Matt Patricia would bench him.
I did, yeah. That was more a Matt Patricia question.
Okay.
It wasn't a Bradbury question. Would you bench him? Do you know quarterbacks targeting Bradbury over the last 3 weeks?
It's bad.
158.3. It doesn't go any higher than that.
I'd at least rotate.
Yeah.
If they're going to rotate anyway.
Yeah.
It's bad right now.
It is. Cornerbacks can lose it overnight.
Yeah, and that was kind of the talk about him across the league last year, was that he can't run, but he made up for it last year.
Yeah.
This year he's not doing that.
Yeah. I mean, when he makes up for it, it's with savvy and intelligence and
length
and knocking some balls down and just knowing he knows where he's supposed to be. He just can't get there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who are their starting corners next year?
Slay and it's either Ringo or a player to be named.
Isaiah Rodgers?
Rodgers is more of a nickel. He might be the nickel next year.
Might be.
He's played outside too. But
yeah.
Kind of the forgotten guy because he's suspended.
Yeah, but he's not a bad player.
No, certainly not.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to cut Bradbury because he's certainly not a guy you want as a backup. And Keely was talking about how good it's been to have Job and Goodrich and Eli, just that whole kind of group of young corners, and they're always there picking each other up, and they're all very serious about the game, and they study together, and it's pretty cool.
Maybe Tate Gowan will come back, the starter.
Yeah.
Kerry Vincent.
I knew that was Kerry Vincent Jr.
Jamison Houston.
That whole group.
I'm trying to think who else was in that group.
You don't have to.
It doesn't matter. Giants. As Jalen would, I mean, Jalen Hurts would hate this podcast. We're 55 minutes in. We haven't mentioned the opponent yet.
That's a good question. About time.
What do you make of the Giants? They got a little juice right now.
Yeah, well,
Tommy DeVito, as much as everyone's having fun with like the meme stuff, like he's actually he's not playing badly.
Kid from Don Bosco? Is that where he went to high school?
Is he dumb? He one of the two. He talked about the rivalry.
Bergen Catholic or something?
Yeah.
I think he's from Don Bosco, but no, he's playing well.
Don Bosco.
He beat the Commanders, the Patriots, the Packers. I guess he left the game the other day, the Saints game.
Briefly, with they had to get checked for a concussion.
Oh, but he came back?
Yeah.
Okay. So they don't do a whole lot of things well, but he's very scrappy and
yeah, he's not great. But he's got a little juice.
He's given that team some juice.
Yeah.
Saquon's not having a great year. I think
he's a great player still.
Well, he is against this team, and I could see him making a
that line isn't very good.
No, line's not very good. They don't have good receivers. I mean, they don't score a lot of points. They're not. It's not a
Darius
good
Slayton's like their one guy, and he plays inside outside. So we'll see where they line him up against the Eagles. That'll tell you what that offense thinks about the Eagles secondary.
Yeah. Yeah. But really, this game to me is more about the Eagles than the Giants. I mean, it's, do they come out confidently? Do they come out and take command early? Do they put them away if they get up 10? 4 of the Eagles' last 7 losses have been after they led by 10 or more points.
It's weird.
Isn't that crazy? You got to be able to put teams away, and this team used to be able to do that. They were up 10 in that game Monday night.
The Giants you can run against, and Dexter Lawrence is a little banged up.
They've given up 19 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. On paper, the Eagles should win by 10. I don't know what the line is, but
13.5 right now.
Is it really?
Yeah.
But to me, it's just about let's find out what this team's made of because
this is a chance for the Eagles to face a team that they are significantly better than.
And we've earmarked these last 3 games since April.
As wins.
Like whatever happens, they've got these in their back pocket. Yeah. So, and this game's a lot bigger than the Seattle game.
In terms of the standings, yeah.
Yeah.
If they win out, they'll win the NFC East.
Yeah.
It'll come down to
strength of
victory, which they should win.
They almost have to. I mean, let's see what they're up to. Was it 16? Strength of victory. So they're at 69, and the Cowboys are at 53. So up 16 wins. So it's opponent wins.
Yeah.
So you can't make up 16 in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, you can mathematically, but it's not going to happen. So,
exactly. So if they win these last 3 games,
they win the NFC East. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're the 2 seed.
Not necessarily.
I guess Detroit could still.
Yeah. Detroit is in control of that, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Detroit's in control of that.
Detroit has they're at Minnesota, then they're at Dallas. Eagles fans, that might be a chance for Eagles fans to root for the Cowboys. New Year's or December 30.
That's always fun.
I had a lot of Eagles fans last time that there was that situation. I'm never going to root for Dallas. Well, it helps the Eagles if you do. I'm never going to root for.
Real conflict.
Yeah.
Internal conflict.
Then they finish with the Vikings again. Detroit does, but that should be a fun game though. Cowboys Lions.
Yeah, 2 good offenses.
Yeah.
Who you picking?
Cowboys Lions game?
No.
I'm picking the Giants.
Are you?
No, I'm going to pick the Eagles.
Okay.
I mean, I'm really tempted because right now it's just hard to imagine them winning a game.
You really got me there.
Did I?
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine them winning a game. But it's home. I don't know.
They're wearing all black.
The Giants are really bad. Yeah. The Giants are really bad. I think the Eagles will win, but man, they better.
Yeah, and you're right about this week. It's like it's about them. It's about the Eagles correcting their mistakes. They're the better team.
Period.
They should assert their dominance. They should win this game easily, but nothing has been easy recently.
It's true.
All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that like button, subscribe there as well. We'll have a late night pod. Won't be that late, I guess. It'll be at evening time.
The evening pod,
on Christmas. So Merry Christmas to those who celebrate.
Is that when I'm getting gifts or from you or?
Yeah, just wait on that.
Okay.
Just wait on those gifts. They'll be arriving.
Oh, so you shipped them to me? Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Take care for everyone. Rube, Dave, Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.